Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. 6 o'clock p.m. on the clock. 5/7/2024. Got a little down tempo playing here. Gonna kind of go down. I want to see if Marion could hear that music, and I'm gonna just kind of silence myself there. Kind of waiting to see if Tim and Chris show up. I know that there are a lot of you out there on our other channels looking forward, I hope, to this show that's coming in. Do I need to play down tempo again? Can you hear that? Tell me if you can hear any of that music out there. Let me run this, ladies and gentlemen, audio up and see if Marion can hear it. I've got such a slow computer tonight. It's unbelievable. I'm trying to. Maybe chill will work a little better, you think? Let's try that. Can you hear that? Marion? Producer.
Yes, it goes back like 6 seconds. Yes, it sounds beautiful.
Let's just listen to a little music here until we get somebody on the line. Okay. Let's take that out and run back to chat. See what we've got there. Hi, everyone. There I am. Yeah, okay, good. And we'll X that out here in a minute if we can and see what happens. Add to block list and restream chat. No, I don't want to do that. Of course not. So there we go. From the gut, unscripted, hardcore rubber meets the road conversation, which is what we're having tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Um, last night we did a show on teamwork. We kind of segued, I guess you might say, into this whole idea of teamwork, and then Chris and I got into a fight, and then the whole show crashed. And then Chris and I talked again today, this morning, and kind of worked through some of these things, which is very interesting. Um, very interesting overlay there. I don't really need. Looking at some of the graphics here, kind of cool, and some of the captions, and if a clip that I released, alien clip. So, ladies and gentlemen, connection that we have is horrible. And we're going to have to do something about that. I don't know exactly. The music is still playing over there. I need to stop it. There we go. Let me take that off. Okay, good. Yeah, we're going to have to definitely work on getting some power here in the station. And I really don't know how we're going to do that yet, unless we go to Starlink over there with Elon Musk. and that's expensive. About 150 a month and about 300 or more to get started. I think
600 to get started.
600 to get started, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's really worth it because we can broadcast anywhere in the world on Starlink, and it's very much worth it. And I think I'm going to do a fundraiser to get us started. We can handle the 150 a month, but we can't handle the 600 down. I mean, we could, but it would set us back at a time when we're trying to get our preps together for what is coming here, this coming storm here in the United States and globally. And so we really don't have the money to put out for something like that. I want to have a conversation tonight. And I wasn't planning on having this conversation at all, really, but I ran across someone, Annie Jacobson, who I'm going to be talking a lot about tonight, who is probably one of the top researchers in the world um, on a whole lot of different things. And, she's very smart on the Pentagon's doings over there in DARPA and HARP and the military industrial complex and Raytheon and all of these other things that are going on with artificial intelligence. And especially, she's an expert on nuclear war. And we are getting so close to that right now that I think it was time that we speak about these things because I noticed that the research that she's done is some of the same papers that I have read and documents and reports and dossiers and so forth, and some of the archives that she's gone into. Coincidentally, I've gone into. So it's very interesting that my notes and her notes are kind of coincide together, interestingly enough. Um, Hell, I don't even know how to get back to my radio station where I'm live. Yeah, there I am. I'm live. I don't see anybody in the queue yet, so it's kind of interesting that nobody seems to give a shit what's going on here in the main VIP room. But I know that all of you out there listening do care, and we will go on without them. But Annie Jacobson, yeah, very interesting lady, and she much dead set along with a whole lot of other top gun thinkers in the United States and around the world that this is not going to end well, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about all of the fringe activities that are going on with the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization and the Pentagon, and we've talked about SpaceX, and we've talked about the military industrial complex and all of these cosmological findings and all of these astronomical, findings in astrology, in astrophysics, and biology and chemistry and mRNA, CRISPR technology and nanobots and nanotechnology, and then we've talked about the geopolitical situations. We've talked about the nuclear triad, which we're going to talk a little bit more about tonight. The nuclear triad, very interesting stuff going on. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a good show, I think. And I thank you all for coming. And I think you all are going to get a very informative show tonight. Very excited to be here tonight myself. And I'm just hoping that Chris will make it. Everything happens very fast, folks. And we know that what's coming is much worse than what we've been reporting now that we have this new information coming in. We know that this is going to be very shocking for some of you. So you might want to sit down, take a chill pill, and because it's not talking about tonight are really very traumatic, very shocking. Some of you may not be able to handle what we're going to be talking about. Basically, what we're going to be talking about is mutually assured destruction and some of the nuclear programs that are happening right now and the nuclear technology that's available right now, locked and loaded in the silos, on the ships, on the submarines, in the air, and ready to go. And when they push the button, we're going to incinerate about 5 billion people in about 36 minutes. Yes, you heard me right. About 5 billion, 5 billion people in about 36 minutes. But we're talking about retaliatory strikes. We're talking about mutual assured destruction. Um, you know, and within 20 to 35 minutes, the whole planet could be on fire, is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Very fast. We have a very fast ticking clock right now. So, one of the first moments I had that's kind of like that wow moment, I was researching an earlier documents and I was down in the archives and looking deep into the archives. And there was a guy called Herb York, who is the first chief scientist at the Pentagon in the late 50s of DARPA. And I was looking at some of his work, earlier work, and in his papers buried away, I found this detail that literally made my jaw drop and is so important to this show. And that was the ICBM had just been invented. ICBM, the Intercontinental Ballistic Missiles, that will take a warhead, a nuclear warhead from somewhere in the Soviet Union or wherever, Russia, China, North Korea, and drop it on Washington, D.C., or drop it somewhere in the United States in the middle of the U.S. or somewhere in America. And, York, the scientist, wanted to know precisely how long it would take down to seconds. And so he hired the smartest men in the world at that time, the Jason scientists. You can research them. If you've never heard of them, like there's a zillion conspiracies about them, but the Jason scientists are real people, and I've talked to some of them, and they were hired to whittle down that number precisely, and that number came up with was it's going to be like 20 minutes, 26 minutes and 40 seconds as of when, like now, or, is we're talking about now, okay? About 26 minutes. Uh, from the launch pad in Russia, and by the way, this hasn't changed. Ballistic missile technology doesn't change that much, right? And so now North Korea is about 33 minutes away. An engineer did the math for me. So you're talking 30 minutes from launch to the end, and that's the first missile strike, the first nuclear warhead, and then what happens, and that's what nuclear war, a scenario, is all about. Um, and so this made me want to touch on a whole lot of other things and go into all sorts of different things that the governments are doing, including out at Area 51 and the Pentagon and the CIA, and why this show is so important tonight. We're talking about that earlier, Marion and I. And I've written a lot of articles about this over the years, and I've interviewed hundreds of people from all walks of life at intelligence agencies, Air Force pilots, spies, CIA, former agents, and whistleblowers, engineers, national security umbrella over decades. And every single one of them that I've interviewed always sort of caveat their role in all of this in war and weapons by saying, you know, Kyler, everything we do is to prevent nuclear war. Well, that's definitely a lie. Um, what happens if the fail safe fails? What if all that we this concept in the show tonight, which is shocking to me to really wrap my head around even all of this or any of this. Um, it's a concept called deterrence. And all of you, I'm sure, understand what deterrence is. It's to deter someone from doing something, it's an offense, defense, right? It's like the ultimate defensive strategy
People.
allegedly is deterrence. Okay. I'm going to go check for people over there on my show and see what's going on. Nobody's here. As usual, nobody's here. That's wonderful. So, all of you know basically what deterrence is. It's the idea is, oh, I have a nuclear arsenal. So, even if you have a nuclear arsenal and we're going to point them at each other, which we are, we're both obviously not going to use them because we'd both die if we did this as mutual assurance destruction, right? It is absolutely mad, and it's madness because it holds until it doesn't. It holds until it doesn't. You don't fire until you do fire. And you may have someone, the president is the only one who can give the order to fire, by the way, in all of these countries. And of course, you could have a mad, crazed, insane president, or you could have a president that's sitting back saying, well, let's wait and see what happens for a minute or two here and try to talk to someone or communicate with someone, find out what happens before we push the big button. Um, and like I said, it all works until it doesn't work. And the next question, why did all these serious national security, top secret, classified people talk to me about what's going on, including some folks in the Secretaries of Defense, former Stratcom commanders, and others, because they're Cold War warriors, right? They're not of your generation, most of you. They're not of even my generation. They're of the older generation. They're elder statesmen now in their 80s and 90s and are all very seriously concerned that the whole idea of deterrence is not going to work. It's not a sacred concept to anyone in this world. We now live in, from your experience, and interviewing these guys was something that came out a few years ago in London that said there were more spies, more Russian spies in London today than during the Cold War. And this is very true. And there are more spies in the United States now than ever. China is spying on the United States. We're spying on China. The Russia is spying on the United States. We're spying on Russia, Iran, and of course Israel and the IDF and Hezbollah and all of these others, including Hamas and ISIS and even Black Lives Matter, if you want to get technical, and the Black Panther Party and Anon and you know, DARPA and the Department of Defense are firing at each other with hacks and hacks and hacks, and ransomware hacks are happening all over the world. Every 29 seconds, there's a hack. So run that through your mind and see what comes up. But yeah, there's more spies going around now working in these clandestine activities and doing espionage and overt activities than there were in the Cold War, when the Iron Curtain was up. So think about that. Um, is the Cold War really over? No, it's not. This is a game changer, and it's helped me a lot in the field of broadcasting to think about these things. Um, but it's just one of those things that you have to really sit and think about because what we're talking about tonight. You've got multiple nuclear armed nations right now, okay, that that are under attack right now, and what you would call proxy wars, like Ukraine is a proxy war. We've got proxy wars going on in the West Bank. We've got proxy wars going on in Syria and Pakistan. We've got proxy wars going on in Libya and Somalia and even in Nigeria. And even proxy wars, if you want to be technical, on what your idea of a proxy war is and how bad does it have to be because until it qualifies as a proxy war. Um, being backed by bigger players, okay? Backed by bigger players, but tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Where is this going? Where is all of this going? You know, the reason I'm here is not to terrify people necessarily, but to stop rather to terrify people truly and make them realize, oh my gosh, like nuclear, this use of nuclear weapons is total madness. The most important concept in this whole show is, you see, I'm going to be talking about um, my sources, some of them relaying to me that if nuclear war begins, it will not stop. It will not stop until the totality and the total annihilation of civilization. That's where we are tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this show is about tonight. It will not stop. Now, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have said this. 6 months ago, I did not say this. And 6 months ago, I probably wouldn't have even agreed with this analogy. But I do now that I've gotten more information. But this particular situation that we're in right now is total mutually assured destruction. Everybody has their hand on that football. Everybody has their hand on those nuclear codes and they're ready to fire. Okay. And the show tonight will really shock you, I think. We're talking about total annihilation of civilization, and also all of this happens in hours, not even days. This is going to sound like some off the wall questions I'm getting for like laymen out there coming in on chat. But everyone's going to have to learn, yes, to face their own mortality, like as a species. Is there a purpose for our even being here? People keep asking. Why are we here? Are we avatars? Are we human? Are we entities? Are we beings? Are we the essence of the substrate? Do we have a prime directive? Does ultimate truth exist? All of these people, everyone out there is looking for these kinds of questions to be answered and simply cannot be answered. These are questions that simply cannot and will not ever be answered. Um, all of the people are inevitably going to suffer and be in pain. And I think it's very pertinent to believe in some kind of higher power, especially at this time. If you want to do that, that's your business. Some kind of spirituality might help you, prayer might help you. Um, as a journalist and talk show host and producer, I try to stay in the neutral zone on those types of things. And that is only a question you can ask. I want to be hopeful, okay, and believe that progress is being made on these things. Otherwise, you're just stuck like in the total darkness of cynicism and the dystopia and the disaster of it all. And interestingly, I am going to talk about this on the show tonight and raise a lot of these questions. I'm not talking about a higher power like God. We got into religion the other night. People got a little pissed off, got a lot of bad emails, nasty emails. But, um, how I feel philosophically or spiritually, I try to leave out of my shows as much as I can sometimes. Otherwise, you go down the rabbit hole and people start calling you names and saying you're the right, or you're the Republican, or you're the Democrat, or you're the atheist, or you're the agnostic, or you're the devil, or whatever. And it just leads to total mayhem, okay? And nothing gets done. Incredibly, I am spiritual in my own way. There was a site in southern Turkey called which an archaeological site is there, and it's 12,000 years old, and it's been buried for 12,000 years. And I've heard a lot of people talking about this, like D. Younger and others. Um, some of these theories have been talked about by Billy Carson. If you want to look up Billy Carson, he's a good reference point for these types of things. Um, everybody wanted to know what they found was there. And I find a lot of your questions here in chat very remarkable. And we are a species, right? That how scientists, for at least my whole life, have always, you know, when I was a kid in school, I was like, oh, man became civilized because what we're talking about here in the show is the destruction of civilization, the total destruction of civilization just around the corner, like right now, the end of civilization. So I was taught civilization began when man became hunter gatherers, like around, let's say, 9,000 BC, 9,000 years ago. And everybody adhered to that idea and has pretty much adhered to that idea. And then the site gets found over there, and that timeline gets pushed back not just 3,000 years, but pre hunter gatherer. So we're talking about 12 to 15,000 years. Hunter gatherers did not exist at Gobekli. Carved into the stones are all these wild animals, meaning not domesticated animals, cranes and albatrosses and vultures and all kinds of foxes and all kinds of undomesticated animals. And it made me stop and think, whoa, this is so intense, like man, because to build um, this particular civilization involved architects, and to doing these digs included some architects famous from around the world. It involved early architects, involved groups of people working together. We talked about this earlier on a few shows. They were team players. They were a team type of civilization. We talked about teamwork last night and how hard it is to put together. But this all grew out of teamwork. And we're talking 3,000 years before we thought hunter gatherers even existed. Before, domestication of animals, before society. So it suggests that is how society and how civilization happened, which is a long winded version of the hopeful answer is yes. I believe that you have to look toward bigger ideas to find a solution or believe in a solution to believe that, we're all not headed to hell in a handbasket necessarily because of how many wars are killing so many people right now in the millions. We talked about today. Um, we talked about today New York and all of these other cities that are now. And New York is falling fast, very fast. Tim, I need to mute you. You are always feeding back like a big dog. There we go. You're muted. Okay, good. Um, but yeah, all of these countries are at war right now, and it's just amazing that Europe, Northern, Western Europe, Europe period, the EU, everybody's digging their holes. Everybody's digging their fallout shelters. Everybody's getting ready for the big war, and we're talking about France and Germany and Finland and Sweden, and we're talking about Poland and all of the border countries there from Russia, which is massive. You know what I mean? And everybody's getting ready except the U.S. Nobody in the U.S. seems to really give a damn what's happening. And this is something we can talk about a little bit later, which is really interesting to me. Um, and, people relentlessly have been getting ready ever since World War II, with the amount of different scientists and diplomats and people we talk to, like common people, interesting, just regular people. It is interesting to just think of the differences in the human brain. We talked about perception, perspective, and experience, and misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, and many, many, many shows. We've talked about the diversification of the cerebral cortex and how they keep the right and left knowing what the left hand is doing, the ones in the north knowing what the south are doing. Military industrial complex has its secrets. DARPA has its secrets. The Department of Defense, Department of Justice, they have their secrets. NASA has their secrets. The CIA secrets, MI5, MI6. And the list, of course, goes on and on and on with the top secrets that are happening right now. And like I said, tonight's show is kind of breaking news. The DoD and the CIA have come out basically, and Homeland Security, along with MI5, MI6, and Interpol, NASA, and many other agencies, including the FBI, and kind of like Event 201, they've done the studies over there at the DoD, and they have decided that will destroy now. We're not looking at a couple of firecrackers going off over Missouri. We're not looking at some smaller kinetic type of weapons going off somewhere in the Atlantic or Pacific. A couple of ships firing at each other. Um, we're looking at basically total uh, annihilation of civilization within an hour and 15 minutes. We're talking about the annihilation of civilization, killing 5 billion, 6 billion people. Okay. And it's amazing. It's amazing how this could happen overnight. I mean, I can't even imagine. Um, I've been struggling with this for a long time, and I've studied Oppenheimer, and I've looked at all of the tests that they were doing back then, and it was interesting to look at the atom and how they took the atom and they used it for such massive destruction. The thermonuclear, now we have thermonuclear, back then it was the atom bomb. Now we have thermonuclear. But the thing is, we have thousands of thermonuclear weapons and warheads on alert that can leave their silos within 60 seconds and be in full mode, kill mode, instantaneously and reach the United States within 17 to 26 to 36 minutes. And total, we're talking total annihilation, folks. We're talking the annihilation of 5 to 6 billion people. And we're not talking about next week, next year, next month. We're talking about right now. These folks have their hands on this kind of technology, and this is being talked about around the world with all of the diplomats and all of the scientists and all of those who advise these different leaders on what's going on. And the problem with some of this technology is our technology works fairly well. Russia's technology doesn't work as well. So they could see the cloud could fly by one of the satellites and it could mistake it for an ICBM or a warhead coming out of a silo, and they could hit the button and say, "We're going to get there first." Bang, 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 and the game is over. So there's a lot of problems with all of these weapons. Okay, they're not 100% perfect. They're not 100% true. They're not 100% effective. They've got problems, which makes the situation even worse. You would think it might make it better, but it doesn't. It makes it worse. But everybody's brain is different. Such a great thing to think about. And I agree wholeheartedly. I am not a nuclear physicist, but I have interviewed many nuclear physicists, some of the smartest people in the world, you know, and I've made fun of not being, a triple PhD, but I've talked to a lot of triple PhDs and I've talked to a lot of folks uh, that really just astound me when it comes to intelligence. Because the truth of out of all of this is that than we are different. And it's amazing. It's amazing how some of these come up. I'm looking through things. I'm sure you all are with Skunk Works. Um, and,
That video is really clear.
I'm sorry, what?
You're dragging down your signal.
Can you hear me dragging down my signal?
Yes, I can.
How is it dragging it down?
Just shortening, clipping it.
Okay. What we're talking about tonight is a lot of information that's been declassified recently. And it's a very, very dangerous, very scary show. But everybody needs to get a hold of this. You know what I mean? Um, everybody needs to get a hold of this. I mean, Raytheon is so backed up right now on weapons, special weapons orders. They're not even, they closed their marketing department. And so did all of the other weapons manufacturers, basically, that are doing all of this major weapons work around the world. They're so far backed up on weapons that they have already put out on the assembly line and are ready to ship. They're so backed up on orders and they're so busy they're not even marketing anymore. So they don't even have to market. They don't need to because they're so far advanced. They're just so much in demand. Their weapons are so much in demand for the weapons, their own back orders. And it's like, we have enough. We need to fill these orders before we can worry about trying to find new clients. There's war in Europe, Middle East, and all of these other places going on right now. And people are asking, like these, like biology, what they're doing with moths and rats, and what Elon Musk has been doing with the occipital chip and all of these technologies, the edge that we're not even considering. People are asking, like, what I'm hearing about what we're doing with these types of things. And the nuclear war, to me, is the ultimate sort of zeroing out of all of this because, um, and it feeds and a lot of these other technologies, right? So the idea is we have mutual assured destruction and no one's going to use their giant weapon systems, right? That's what people think. Which, I mean, the nuclear triad, and we should talk about this nuclear triad because it's shocking. But, and so you have that on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you have the smaller weapons systems, which will fight all of the proxy wars I mentioned earlier, like in Ukraine and the West Bank and Gaza and so forth and so on, which take, you know, endless amounts of taxpayers making trillions, billions of dollars in taxpayer money. But the nuclear defense system itself, for example, the new budget just came out and it's for the next decade and it's, $760 billion just for the upkeep. We're talking mopping and sweeping the silos, folks. We're not technically creating new nuclear weapons of any kind, okay? This is like sort of for updating maybe some of the systems, computer systems, right? So you think about the massive size of that. I mean, you guys out there know about the nuclear triad, I'm sure, right? You would probably say Korea, China, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, at all. And so what it's really about. So system, we have been told this idea of deterrence is predicated on my weapons are pointed at you and your weapons are pointed at me and no one's shooting because we're going to kill each other. Don't you know, right? It's like, oh, I have my gun in my safe. Yeah, well, no. The guns are on the hip of every country in the world that possesses one or more nuclear weapons. And a one megaton nuclear weapon can kill millions and millions of people launched on a city such as Washington, D.C. I demonstrate this in many of my shows that I've talked about when I've talked about Jade Helm. And many of those, do you think we have on ready for launch status, ready to go right now, right here on the hip, ready to fire? Yes, we do. We're talking about thousands of nuclear warheads, thousands, right? Um, several hundred in each country, several thousand in each country. Amazing how we have somewhere between 75 and over 100. Uh, it's way more around 1,500 to 1,600 nuclear weapons. The States 1,770 and Russia 1,680. Something nukes and underground. That's not including underground, and that's not including submarines, and that's not including the arsenal. So you have a nuclear warhead, and the warhead, think nuclear bomb. Well, there's a warhead, and then there's the delivery system, and so that's what the triad is. The triad, we have a triad system. We have ICBMs that are in silos underground all over the world. We have 400 of them, by the way, ready to go. Take 60 seconds to launch. Okay, 60 seconds to launch, and we have 400 of those. That's from pressing the button. That's making the call to the president, where he gives two words, and bang, that's it. President giving just two-word command. The president, and only the president, reads these two-word commands to someone standing in the underground bunker beneath the Pentagon. It's called the National Military Command Center, and he and make this decision, the president. That's the way it is, folks. And we're getting to that point now. We've gotten to that point now. It's not non-negotiable question. The president makes the final decision, and that we have another president before this happens. I hope we don't have Biden in there. That's going to be the worst scenario in the world, or his crazy, giggly vice president. So the total authority lies with the president of the United States. The launch authority, he doesn't ask anyone. He doesn't ask the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He doesn't ask Secretary of Defense. He alone decides to launch the nuclear weapons. So if you end up with a president who's a big pacifist, someone fires at you, I'm not firing back, it'll kill millions of people, and that's what a lot of people think. And this is very possible. It just depends on what president is in what country. Man, trigger happy, crazy madman who doesn't understand that one weapon is backed up by 1,000 weapons or 10,000 weapons. Why, by the way, in an interview, two secretaries of defense privately, they confirmed with me most presidents do not even pay attention during their briefings on nuclear weapons. They just don't care because they don't believe it's going to happen. So that's the problem that we have at the moment. Okay. Welcome to the show, Chris. How you doing? We're talking about the total annihilation that's come out of the Pentagon's mouth recently, in the DoD and the CIA, that we're looking at a total catastrophic global annihilation event coming up. Um, Chris, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Will you have any comments on DoD, DOJ, CIA, FBI, Homeland Security? MI5, MI6, and Interpol, along with NASA and my other intelligence agencies that I deal with, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff and some of the other commanders in the warships that are out there in the Pacific and the Atlantic.
You know, the one of the stupid. I think it's really obvious when you look at the testing. Since nuclear testing's happened, of course, we know every time they show up, right? They talk about that, and now every one of these silos, every one of these things, why have something to destroy the world? Because that's their agenda. World. They don't understand that every time they shoot that off and that goes up into the atmosphere, wind up sending that radioactive crap all over the world. And all they did was practice it. Oh, don't go to this. You can't go to this island for 50 years. Not all the wind that went up in the trade went, in the air and went over to the where that's where all the air transfers and it takes out and sends out good. And the thing is they're cutting that down. That all this is stupid. The ignorance of, I think, the most ignorant, and I'm ignorant thing that a human being can worry about is to be in power. And that person, I don't even know what they are. They're not, I guess they care they're a person. I think we were kind of going over that one, what a citizen was, what all these, these labels
Well,
that they put us out there
and
on.
let's just say, to make it simple for people, we're kind of getting into a kind of a conglomerated kind of complex area of sociopsychology. To make it simple for people, different people have different strokes for different folks. Okay, different strokes for different folks. Everybody has a different perspective and perception and experience and reasoning for why they do what they do. And ego plays a very big part in all of this. And of course, the aggressiveness and curiousness of a scientist plays a big part of this. Like myself, I want to know what's going to happen when I snake bit. For an hour and a half, 2 hours before I would allow my friends to take me to the hospital because I wanted to see how my body reacted and how quick I would start foaming at the mouth and would start swelling and so forth. No different than that whatsoever. No different than that whatsoever. Different strokes for different folks. So we have Star Wars under the Reagan administration. Your own nuclear arsenal, but have the capacity to stop anyone else is bullshit. Okay, from hitting the United States is a total fantasy. Star Wars is a total fantasy to begin with. It's now called the Interceptor program, right? So before I tell you about that, I want to tell you we got our 400 silos, ICBMs. They launch in 1 minute, okay? Even though they're really called Minutemen because of the Revolutionary War, but that's the double entendre. 60 seconds, okay? 60 seconds silo. What's that? Yeah, 60 seconds out of the silo doors. They open. ICBMs cannot be recalled. They cannot be recalled once launched. And that's, then we have 14 nuclear ballistic armed
It does seem
submarines.
like your audio is popping in and out.
Sucks. It really sucks. And I don't know what we're going to do about it. I really don't. But talk a little bit about we have the B2. which are those big giant things that y'all have seen flying before, since World War II. And right after that, you have the B 2 bombers, the stealth bombers, and we have the 66 of those in the air. And together they carry all those weapons, around 1,700 weapons, something which isn't to mention those that are in, the back, literally in the back house in the bunker underneath, which is about 5 to 8,000 waiting just to carry in the back, waiting to go into the ballistics, waiting to go into the silos. About 5,000, okay? And that doesn't include China, that doesn't include North Korea. There's another 15 to 17 to 18,000 with these superpowers. And that's why it's totally insane, because you could have the trigger happy president who's like, screw them, I'm launching a nuke. I see something coming. And no one stops him. By the way, no one can stop the president. No one can stop the president. So they can't hold a gun to his head and say, sir, I think you're making a big mistake. No, they just have to launch. And this has been going on since the Cold War. We've had this rule, congressional rule. Stratcom commander. So the Stratcom commander that's the strategic commander who receives the order from the president. He doesn't have to tell SEF, he doesn't have to tell SATCOM what to do. President doesn't have to tell the Joint Chiefs of Staff what to do. President talks to the National Military Command Center under the Pentagon. They give the order to Stratcom, and bang, everybody's dead within 36 seconds. Stratcom commanders were concerned about then POTUS Donald Trump when he had this sort of Mad Men idea because of some of the fire and fury language around North Korea that he was talking about. So they were really worried about him being the madman behind the button, that's going to push their button. The American public in a manner that, you know, I like, wow, this is really transparent. They're coming out and talking about this now. The Pentagon's coming out and talking about this now in open session in Congress. That yes, the president had sole authority. What are the two words, you might ask, that the president says? Well, it's like Tango Alpha, whatever. Tango Alpha, bang, you're dead. 5 billion people dead. Tango Alpha, dead. 36 seconds, you're dead. 5 to 6 billion people dead. And we're at point right now. You know what I mean? They're just like Alpha Tango, Zulu, whatever. Bang, you're dead. Um, you could even do this in your sleep. I mean, there could be a really major accident or something. I mean, some of these guys are drunk, they're high, they're stupid, they're dumb, they're ignorant, they're got Alzheimer's, like Biden. How do you like Biden having the Zulu Tango words in his head, ready to fire the first nuke out that's going to kill 5 to 6 billion people? Okay, I'm not very happy with that. Los Alamos Laboratory was very helpful to me in their research they've done that was been declassified for this show. The story of the football, how the president carries the football. Yeah, well, you can read all of that in some of my articles, and it's not known how it came to be. And I described it in many of my shows. The football has inside of it this book of options, right? So it's not just a it's like, wait, who's firing at us if nuclear war were to happen? If that 6 minute window that we talked about earlier happens, someone is launching at us. We have a policy called launch on warning. It's not called launch on us with a nuclear weapon. It's called launch on warning for a reason, because we have satellite systems in space that allow for how long until the president gets guess how long until our satellite systems see these launches in North Korea, China, or Russia? How long do you think it takes the plumes coming out? Takes exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds. So that gives us a little bit more time, a few more seconds to get ready to be buried in the rubble. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about tonight has been ultra classified for years and years and years, and much of this is coming out due to the hard work of myself and many other researchers and journalists like myself. Or you wouldn't be hearing anything about this at all. But these satellites can see the plumes from underneath the ICBM, and it's amazing how highly technological these things are, and they're very sure that a nuclear warhead that is coming out of an ICBM and that's being launched. Our satellite systems are called cybers, right? Space-based infrared satellite systems. So space-based infrared satellite systems. So we've been working on these technologies since the launch of Sputnik in 1957. So it's so advanced now. Its sensor system, its AGIs are so advanced in space. They can see the hot rocket exhaust on the ICBM launch, and they know instantaneously. Their computers calculate, do all the major calculations within seconds. That this is machine learning, folks. This is machine learning. Without machine learning, we would not have this early warning system from space. People call it intelligence, but it's machine learning, right? And they can measure the plume of the rocket exhaust in a fraction of a second, a tenth of a second, and begin notifying the trajectory, right? And the angular momentum. So a satellite launch, and this is straight up. So, like the cyber system, knows within a few seconds this is going into space or this is going at an angular momentum, and it will do the calculations. Tick tock, the clock is counting down. In about 8 seconds, it's done the calculations on where the particular warhead will hit with the delivery system. So, this is pretty amazing tech that we have. And we've only tested in a very limited way. So we're not exactly sure that they're going to work as planned. And this is very frightening. This is very frightening. Tick tock goes down the clock. So frightening that when I learned of this, um, I was terrified, literally terrified. I mean, it's all based in fact on 5 seconds. They know, and I have maps drawn right in 5 seconds. Cybers know it's heading exactly to Hawaii or to the East Coast or to the West Coast, and they can break all of this down. They have fire warning on how long it takes and notification to the president and so forth and so on. It's very interesting how all of this works. Very interesting how all this works, and very scary the amount of nuclear warheads that are ready and armed at this time, ready to fire. So, what has to happen to secondary confirmation? This is U.S. policy, okay? So, the missile that we talked about, 26 minutes, 40 seconds, 3 stages. Boost phase, that's when the missile like firing up mid-course phase, it's moving across the globe at a trajectory, and then the terminal phase, that's when we kill 5 to 6 billion people instantaneously. And it doesn't need an explanation, right? Boost phase only lasts a couple of minutes. And so that's the only time that SIRS can see and then begins to process. We're going to have to shoot. We have to make it. The president has to make a decision within 8 to 12 seconds. Where the system in Alaska that will then see and confirm and give that secondary confirmation And once that secondary confirmation happens, that's when the president is notified again, like very specifically, let's say around 8 minutes, the president's notified, and now he has 6 minutes to make his decision whether he's going to kill, 15 billion people. I mean, it's literally, we're talking total annihilation, is what they're talking about right now. So he has to make the decision whether he's going to launch. And we have a launch on warning policy. And as I'm talking on the show here, warning, okay, about president could say, let's hold back a little bit. It's called absorb the attack. He could say, let's do an absorb the attack, right? Well, we'll go from there and we'll see what happens. But you can't be sure what's going to happen if we wait to see. So I don't think anybody would wait to see what's going to happen when you've got a 1 megaton ICBM with a delivery system in trajectory toward the East Coast. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's just going to be bang, bang, game over. So that's where we are right now. And we haven't even talked about the Trident system with the submarines. And the Trident system, the UK has Trident going to order the weapons to launch. And these are all very good questions I'm getting in my other chats here. But they have like 15 nukes. And if they're headed 15 nukes in this direction, or 1,500 nukes in this direction, and we've got 400 chances to pick one or two of them out of the sky, we're not going to make it. So our early warning system and our deterrent systems are not going to work. We're simply going to die. And if we're firing back, it's like, hell yeah, let's shoot like 50 of them. There has to be some plan in place, presumably, to get the president to continue being alive for a while, whilst being hit by these megaton bombs. So he's going to be, of course, 22 floors or 30 floors, 36 floors down underneath the White House or wherever he might be at the time. They always have a contingency plan set up. And here's where all you guys are going to have to just listen very carefully, because we're coming back and having some really heavy, heavy, heavy questions coming out here, about, hey, is this real? Is this real? Is this going to happen? Yes, it could happen right now. We can detect all of these different things. We have the Tundra program, as you said, allegedly very faulty. The Tundra program in Russia is, so they're probably going to be the first to go, I would say, if I had to bet on it, if I was a betting man. And there's been declassified documents where they saw clouds moving around in Russia and thought it was a nuclear warhead coming their way and almost pushed the button, Alpha Zulu, bang, bang. And this happens all the time, folks. I mean, you won't even sleep tonight thinking about this. Clouds, folks, birds, eagles, vultures, anomalies flying through the sky, maybe a hot air balloon, and bang, bang, push the button, 1 megaton gone, 5 billion people unalived at that time. So this is where we are right now. And I've interviewed people from Area 51, from Groom Lake, from the DOD, the DOJ, NASA, probably NASA more than any, and people from many other top intelligence agencies around the world. I even have classified documents that have been recently unclassified talking about the stealth bomber, which has gotten so, the technology has gotten so great now. They shot down the first stealth bomber, and then we developed the B2, and then we developed this other new one that's coming out through the old Skunkworks program, which is undetectable. So we're watching all the time via satellite and via these planes that can get up beyond the stratosphere. We're watching, we're monitoring, we're observing very carefully us too. So we're all watching each other. We're all waiting for just each other to make the wrong move and bang, bang. So that's where we're at right now. And plus, we have to contend with, and I'll move on back to CBDC is here. We've got bank closures, we've got foreclosures, we've got all of the drugstores up here closing. We've got 500 drugstores closing. We've got over 1,000 banks closing. We've got multiple bankruptcies with all of the large corporations. We've got hundreds of thousands of people being laid off right now. We've got 10 million immigrants taking over New York right now as I speak on air. We've got the riot police, the National Guard, and other military special ops forces in New York has been taken over. New York has been taken over. The East Coast has been taken over. Ransomware has hit the East Coast. All over the East Coast, 911 systems are down. Um, Computers are down. Medical systems are down. Weapon systems are down. So we're not talking this. I mean, not to include the poisonous water that the CDC just came with and talked about along with the FDA. The poisonous water on the East Coast, all of your water on the East Coast is poison, all the way to a quarter way into the United States or the mid United States, deadly poison. Dog in the bathtub and don't, spray your dog with hose water and don't take a bath in any of this water, a shower in any of this water. It absorbs into, and of course, then you have the opportunity to turn into a cyborg because the water is laced with the mRNA CRISPR technology and the nanobot technology. So they're getting you through the water, they're getting you through the food, and they're getting you through the air. So there is no escape whatsoever. But I guess the most deadly thing right now is the information coming out of the Pentagon concerning this total 100% annihilation. Elon Musk just came out yesterday with a statement that he is 100% sure that we're going to have civil war and civil unrest like right away. We have millions of immigrants here, and they're not here to have a tea party. I've told you guys this before. They're to form these sleeper cells and join these gangs like MS-13 and others, and they're setting up a very dangerous scenario paid for by yours truly, George Soros and the Rothschild family and others in Davos with the World Economic Forum to bring these immigrants in to set up sleeper cells to go ahead and format this formidable bring up these formidable sleeper cells, very dangerous sleeper cells, and create friction and violence and murder and rape and mayhem in the United States. That's what they're after right now. Now, we've also got the potential for bank runs because of so many banks closing and because of so many banks refusing to give people their money. We've got a potential for bank runs. And if we have that, we're definitely going to have a major, major 100% unrest like you've never seen before in the history of the United States. It's going to be bad. And plus, we have the elections coming up, which doesn't make it any easier at all. Okay. So, yeah, it doesn't make it any easier at all when you have the elections coming up. So, we've got all of these things going on simultaneously at the same time. And it's a wild, wild situation, folks. I mean, if you knew what I knew, you would not go to sleep tonight at all. I promise you, if you could slip into my brain just a half hour, you wouldn't sleep for a week. Okay. I can't even tell you what I know, all of what I know, because I would be in big, big trouble, to say the least. But they know what I know, and you know part of what I know, and just you knowing part I know should scare the living shit out of all of you. If it doesn't, then you're mentally retarded. Because what I've just typed back, they have their hands on the button. and they're talking about 100% nuclear annihilation. They're not talking about little EMPs anymore and your car not running and your credit card not working and the ATM going down. They're talking about 100% nuclear annihilation for the first time in this whole situation that's been going on for the last 75 years since World War One, and we could even say the Civil War. Chris, you have anything to add to this tonight? This very dangerous scenario that we're neck deep in right now. Chris, are you there? Hello? Is it me or is it Chris? I don't know.
No, Chris is still there.
I see Chris on the board here. I hope he's not playing with his dog or something. I hope he's on the air here. Maybe he'll come on if I piss him off a little bit. Chris, are you there? You want to make some comments on this? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. You know, it's the situation is really really insane. I'm looking at my board here, trying to get me back. I don't know where I went. My camera got offset there, and all just Tim thing, but curtains and feet. Oh no, it's curtains now. But anyway, Chris is here. I just don't hear him talking. But ladies and gentlemen, we're talking here that is beyond anything I've ever talked about on the air. This scares the living hell out of me. And again, because you're learning, okay, the Russians have a comparable system to ours. Comparable system. They don't have the brains and the technology that we do, but they have the comparable systems that we do. But these countries steal our technology, and China has been stealing our technology for years. Russia has been stealing China's technology for years, and China's been stealing Russia's technology for years, and Iran has been stealing the United States technology for years. And we've allowed all of these foreign students to come in, foreign exchange students to come in, who are really spies and who are really agents, foreign agents who came in to steal state secrets and give them back to their home countries. And that's exactly what's been happening since the Cold War and before. So, this is how they got the technology in the first place. And the other thing on their playbook, of course, is the fake alien invasion, which could happen at any moment now. We're expecting any moment. The fake invasion, which I've read in the Air Force playbook. They're looking at having a fake invasion. If this one thing doesn't work, let's try something else. If this doesn't work, let's just try a fake alien invasion and see if that doesn't put these motherfuckers in their place. They want to keep people down. They want to keep people in fear. They want to keep people terrified. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it's working very, very, very well. Chris, any comments? I'm just going to get off the air early, folks. I'm tired of this bullshit with sound and audio and all these other problems. I'm going to just get off the air. I don't know what I'm going to do. I may go back to Blog Talk Radio. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm getting out of this. Nobody's going to talk to me. Nobody's going to advise me. Nobody's going to tell me anything like the president. I'm going to make the decision. I don't know where I'm going yet. If this keeps up, I'm just going to retire and just be a writer. I'm sick and fucking tired of this stupid fucking audio business. Marion bought me a brand new uh, headset, and this whole thing is just drugged down, drugged down, drugged down, drugged down, drugged down, drugged down, and it's just total bullshit, is what it is. And I'm getting really sick of it. Chris, are you there? Are you able to hear me now?
Yes,
I pumped the. What do you mean? Yes, you're not Chris.
I can hear you just fine.
I'm talking to Chris.
Oh,
Chris, can you hear me? Uh, Let me ask Tim. Tim, can you hear me? Is my audio getting out, Tim? Hillbillies there. Okay, Tim can hear me. That's great. So, Chris, you ought to be able to hear me. If Tim can hear me and you can hear me, that means that you're fucking around doing something else other than listening and participating in the radio show. So I don't know. You know, I'm really just tired of the whole thing. I'm tired of the audio problems. I'm tired of the dragging and lagging and the power. I'm tired of this little white box that's looking at here over blinking over here. We got some work done today, though. We got some work done here. We got some good things done here today. I'm going to eat tonight. I don't know what I'm going to eat yet. But, ladies and gentlemen, I need all of you to get ready for this because I'm telling you right now, this is not a game. This is very, very serious business. It's beyond anything I could tell you. It's beyond your comprehension, and it's beyond most all of your comprehensions. I just can't tell you how bad this really is, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is beyond uh, catastrophic. We're talking total annihilation, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking total annihilation, and I can't see any other way to do the reset the right way. Kill all of you motherfuckers. Um,
Chris said he's trying to talk.
and just break it all up. I mean, Chris hung up and he's going to try to come back in and see if he can reconnect. Um,
It's his audio, not you.
but it's his audio. Yeah, it's not mine. My audio is getting out. Everybody on all platforms is telling me I'm getting out here. So um, I don't know whether you all have ever. There's Chris. Chris, let's see if you can talk now. You want to make some comments here on this new?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Tonight's probably one of the most powerfully scary, dangerous, real time, catastrophic, what's coming event shows that we've done in about a year. So this is the big one. This is the big one.
Oh, I can definitely agree. And people need to be worried about these stupid individuals out there that do have their finger on your life, and they really don't care about you and what you do. And we don't even know you, but we're trying to tell you that there's something you need to know. So, yeah, hopefully you did pay attention to what he has been narrating tonight about the real news that you're not hearing on Fox, you're not hearing it on ABC, and you will never hear it there. You won't hear about the Arctic being on fire. I mean, it's burning more now by 1,000% of what it was and has in ever in the past. Now that goes for and that's from like 2019. You
Yeah,
know, people don't know. They don't know. They look at their local news maybe. They might get a little bit of world stuff, but it ain't real. It's just what they want you to think the world is.
Mary,
So what you're getting here is
Mary,
real. So pay attention. And
yeah,
nuclear bombs.
Mary and I have been talking to people for the last 6 months in depth everywhere we go. We confront people in one way or another. We have ways of confronting people because we're in a squad unit, disaster unit that's all tatted up, and people are real interested in what we're doing. So we have a chance to a lot of people from 8 to 80 years old. And I can tell you right now that 98% of them are completely clueless as to 98% of what I teach on air. And this is very scary. This is very, very scary. But in another way, it's not. I mean, if you stop and think about it, who gives a shit? I mean, you know what I mean? Who gives a shit? I mean, if the nukes go off, everybody's going to be singed anyway. Everybody's going to be crispy critters. And it doesn't really make a shit, whether they knew it or not. It's just going to be like, bang, you're gone. Bye bye. You know. So what we're basically trying to do is tell you all if you can get underground, if you can find an underground base, which Marion and I have been doing all week, I would find one and I would open it up and get it ready because you could survive a nuclear events. If you want to go somewhere safe, go to Argentina, okay, before we go tonight. These nuclear weapons that they have at their access ready to fire right now and blow up the world is going to create. Science scoffed at this about 25 to 30 years ago. They scoffed at this nuclear winter idea until they started doing the calculations on the computers. And oh my God, temperatures are going to drop 30 to 40 degrees below normal. Okay? So there's not going to be any agricultural potential anymore. Period. You're not going to grow anything. So you're going to die. Okay? And the only hope you have for agriculture is Argentina. Now, you can take my word for it, and you can take AGI's word for it, and you can take machine learning calculations word for it. Argentina is the place to go. Have hope of getting up and walking and digging some and planting some tomatoes. I'm sorry, that's it. Argentina, that's it. That's it. Um, so there you go. There's an answer. There's a solution. Oh boy, that's great. Chris loves solutions. So we gave a solution. I mean, Argentina, place to go. I don't think that most of you will hop up and run to Argentina, but I think most of you are just going to ride it out and you're going to be crispy critter, and that's just the way it is. And so, um, all of this is devastating news. I mean, Marion and I know things that we can't put out on the air. Think about what we have to go through, the psychological trauma that we have to go through, talking to these stupid people who are trying to run corporations and start new ideas and big dreams and big visions and oh blah 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 and helping the homeless and helping the veterans and helping the senior citizens and all that bullshit. You know, the whole goddamn system is caving in. I mean, the whole system is caving in. The money system is gone. The petrodollar is gone. And if Dubai on the 14th comes together with Brexit and makes these decisions, I think they're going to make, gasoline's going to go to $8 to $10 a gallon. And your groceries are going to go sky high. You're not going to be able to pay your mortgage or your rent because they're going to take you over with CBDC and digital ID, and then they're going to penalize you. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. And all of these bleeding heart motherfuckers out here need to shut the fuck up and start thinking about, hey, this is game over, bitch. This is game fucking over. Our whole life is getting ready to change like you have never seen before in your wildest imagination. And even if they don't do the nukes, everything is still going to hell in a handbasket because of the New World Order Illuminati Agenda 21, 30, and 50. So you're fucked. No matter how you go, no matter how you let it, you're fucked. Your whole life is going to have to be rethought. Everything you've ever done, everything you've ever believed in is going to hell in a handbasket. You're not going to have any freedom of choice. You're not going to have any freedom. You're not going to have any free will. You're not going to be able to do what you want to do or vacation when you want to vacation or whatever. Buy what you want to buy. None of that's going to happen. None of it. And it's all coming down right now. So all of you better restructure your business plans, which Marion and I do advise on that kind of stuff. You need to revise your business plans to fit the coming catastrophe and the coming chaos and the coming dystopia and the changes in the financial system and the changes in infrastructure and distribution and manufacturing and transportation. And you need to take all of these inflationary uh, data points into consideration when you're looking at building materials, transportation, or you're looking at some new. Anyway, you're so cognitively dissident and emotionally biased, and you just don't want to hear it. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to know about it. you don't care, you don't believe it, whatever. Well, you're going to be the first one in the box. You're going to be the first one in the box. And I can guarantee you, Marion and I went over our preps today, and it's massive. We are prepped and ready. We went to the forest, we went to the underground bunker. We are ready to rock and roll. Chris, any final words tonight? Hello, Chris. Are you there? Eating a piece of cheese and talking about the end of the fucking world. I don't think they wanted us to do this show tonight, is what I think, because it was really a big show. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, if you want any help with your restructuring for the CBDC and the digital ID and the digital passport and the smart cities agenda and the 15-minute city, and if you want any advice on AI or AGI or machine learning or bots or agents, the use of GPT-5, let us know. Um, we've become very proficient in all of this, and we can help you to build your new idea that will coincide with the coming dystopia if we make it and they don't singe us, if they don't nuke us first. Uh, what? What?
Nothing. I'm good.
Oh, my producer was talking to me.
I was
Well,
talking to my computer though.
we're going to go. Um, you guys, I don't even know what to say. I've been doing this so long, nothing phases me at all. Chris is gone again, as usual. Anyway, I'm going.